All right, okay, here we go. All right. It's not ESPN's 30 for 30. However, it is my 98 for 98. The 98 seasons in the history of the New York Football Giants. I'm going to try to get it done in 98 days. Probably not going to happen, though, but I will get it done before September 10th against when we play the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm going to get it done before the beginning of the new season. But so we're forging ahead. We're at a kind of a monumental kind of season here. It's 1994, not for the Giants. It's their 70th season. However, it is the 75th season in the history of the NFL. So we're season number 70 for the Giants. Only 28 more seasons to go, guys. That's all. But it was well, it was, I guess you can call it the year of the streak. You can call it the year of the pick six. They took a step back a little bit. Obviously Lawrence Taylor, his last game he played was in 1993. So he wasn't there anymore. Phil Simms was not there anymore. The Giants pretty much gave the keys to the Ferrari to Dave Brown, who was not a starting quarterback. A backup quarterback. Yeah, I'll give him that. If he's your backup quarterback, not bad. Not bad. I mean, Brian Ack wouldn't take you to a Super Bowl, win you a Super Bowl, unless you had like an unbelievable team, which the Giants did not have. But as a backup quarterback, yeah, very capable backup quarterback, but he was not a starting quarterback. He threw some pick sixes during the season. The Giants started off 3-0. Then they lost their next 7. Then they were 3-7. Then they won the final 6. So it was the year of the streak. Win 3, lose 7, win 6. And they wound up 9-7. Problem was 3 other teams in the NFC wound up 9-7. And those 3 other teams, Giants got knocked out due to tiebreaker, which I'll go over that in a little bit. So the other 3 teams, all with 9-7 records, they all went to the playoffs and as wild cards. So I mean, the Giants, the call what you want. I mean, the 7 games in a row. Quite a few of them were very close contests. 2 of them wound up. Actually, during the 7-game losing streak, Dave Brown threw 3 pick sixes. 2 of them in games basically were the difference, the point difference in why the Giants wound up losing. So, I mean, once again, it is what it is. Dave Brown's not a starting quarterback, But, as I said, I mean, they had a winning record, 9-7. Their defense did take a little step back. The previous year, they gave up 12.8 points per game, I believe it was, if I remember. I mean, so they gave up, I think it was like 19 points a game. They only scored like 17 points a game. So, I mean, to give up more points than you scored and you still wind up with a winning record, not too bad. I mean, the Giants did not have a phenomenal team. So for Dan Reeves, and it did not have a phenomenal quarter. I mean, unlike a couple of the other teams out there, like, the Packers, who had Brett Favre-Nugan, some guy named Troy Aikman, who the Cowboys had. Some guy by the name of Steve Young, who the 49ers, the Giants had Steve Young. Yeah, they wouldn't have been 9-7. They probably would have been at least 10-6, 11-5. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. But the Giants had Dave Brown. So, but let's start with the and it's a little odd. Usually, I mean, during the 16-game schedule, the Giants usually only played 4 preseason games. However, this season they played 5. One of them was a little special. All right, well, let's check that out, shall we? The preseason games for the New York Giants in the 1994 season. The first one was at home against the Miami Dolphins. Actually, the Giants didn't win a game in preseason in the United States. Right, so the first game was at home against the Miami Dolphins. They lost 19-20. Once again, it's preseason, is what it is. The second game, the Giants were at home, and they lost to the Cleveland Browns, 24-15. The fourth game the Giants played, They were away against the Jets, if you want to call it that, especially since they were both playing the same stadium. But the Giants would lose 13-10, another close one. Then the final game of the preseason, game number 5, the Giants lost on the road at Soldier Field to the Bears, 27-21. So, I mean, every game they lost was close, 20-19, 13-10, 27-21, and 24-15. 4 close losses. Yeah, but once again, it's preseason. The third game of their preseason, which they did win, was played in Berlin, Germany. Okay, in Olympic Stadium against the San Diego Chargers. The Giants would win 28-20. So the Giants finished their preseason at 1-4. Right, but oddly playing in Berlin, Germany. So this is like one of the few times that the Giants actually played 5 preseason games. Usually during the 16-game era, they only played 4 preseason games. But all right, so now let's go to the draft once again. Pretty much from 1991 to 1990. I mean, George Young, when he took over as GM for the Giants in 1979, he had a bunch of his earlier picks, he had some real good picks and all of that. He drafted, obviously, I can go on and on and on, but he drafted Joe Morris and Carl Banks and, Lawrence Taylor, obviously, Phil Simms, we can go on and on, so he started obviously building, getting some guys in the draft and really helping build the team, which Bill Parcells was able to, take and win 2 Super Bowls. But by the time, and in the 80s, he had some good drafts, some good draft picks, some good number 1 picks and all of that stuff and everything. But I'll tell you what, after 1990, they just started all going downhill. Now, there's number 1 picks from 1991 to 1996 were just absolute, I don't want to say absolute, total 100% trash, but pretty much absolute, almost 100% trash. They were just absolutely, the picks were just, taking Jared Bunch, a fullback in 1991, 1992, he gave away his, in 1992, there was a supplemental draft, so they gave away their first-round selection in 1993, right? And they took Dave Brown, who's a backup quarterback. So you select the backup quarterback in the first round with your 1993 first-round pick. 1991, they took Jared Bunch, a fullback. 1992, they took Derek Brown, a tight end from Notre Dame. I think he had like 11. He caught 11 passes for the Giants in 3 seasons. Your starting tight, your number 1 pick, pick number 14, catches 11 passes for you in 3 seasons. You've got to be kidding me. I said 1993, they traded away their pick for Dave Brown for a backup quarterback. 1994, they took Thomas Lewis, who only lasted 4 seasons in the NFL. He was a wide receiver from Indiana. He caught like 74 passes or 75 passes in 4 seasons. One of the seasons, he actually caught like 53 or 54 balls. Not bad. The other 3 seasons, I think he caught 20 catches, 20 balls in the other 3 seasons. He played 4 seasons, then he was out of football. 1995, they wound up taking Tyrone Wheatley. However, they only wound up having Tyrone for how many seasons? He played well with the Raiders. What do they have? He had him for 4 seasons. But in his 4 seasons with the Giants, he ran for 1,280 yards. But with the Raiders, and in his first season with the Raiders in 1999, he had 936 yards. His second season with the Raiders in 2000, he had over 1,000 yards. So he did well with the Raiders. But, you took Tyrone Wheatley. He had 8 touchdowns for the Giants in 4 seasons. He had 1,200 yards rushing in 4 seasons. Not so much a horrible pick. But, they drafted him. And then they only had kept him for 4 seasons, and then they just want to let him go. So, he would, from 91 to 96, he would be pretty much by far the best selection. Although, once again, he did not, I mean, a lot of times, you take a first round selection, you kind of hoping they're good, and then you're really kind of hoping you keep them for a while. The object is not to draft a good pick and then after 4 seasons just let them go. The object is to draft well and keep them, develop them and keep them. And Giants didn't do that. So I mean, Tyrone Wheatley in 1995 would be by far the best first round selection from 91 to 96. And then in 1996, one of the biggest draft busts the Giants had in their history was Cedric Jones. They took a defensive end, pick number 5 overall. They could have had Ray Lewis, but they took Cedric Jones. I mean, George Young just really was just bombing out, absolutely bombing out. In 1996, their second round pick was Amani Toomer. He hit gold there, but his first round selection, absolute trash. Absolute trash. Well, anyway, let's go back to 1994. So, the Giants selected, Thomas Lewis, he was supposed to be, he was a good returner. He returned, I think, a kickoff for a touchdown for the Giants. But he was, he was like 190 pounds, I think it was, somewhere around there. But he was supposed to be fast. And but let's click on him. He played 4 seasons for the Giants. First season, he had 4 catches. So when you draft a wide receiver, he played 9 games. And you draft a wide receiver in the first round, and he has 4 catches for you the whole season. I mean, you've got to be freaking kidding me. The second season, he had 12 catches. He played in 8 games, started 2, and he had 12 catches. So your first round selection, wide receiver in your first 2 years, has a grand total of 16 catches. His 4th season in 1997, he had 5. So in three seasons, he wound up with 21 catches. It was in 1996 he did very well. His final season with with Reeves, the coach. He played in 13 games, started in 11 of them, actually had 53 catches for 694 yards, 13.1 yards of reception, and 4 touchdowns. Not bad. So we got hoping maybe in 1997 he can duplicate that or whatever, but no. But also, I mean, Reeves was gone. Fossil came in as the coach, and so that was it. That was it. His 4 years in the NFL, and he was out of there. So once again, an absolute horrible pick by George Young in the first round. Then the Giants in the second round took Thomas Randolph. Now let me see here. Giants had 2 second round picks here. So let's go to the second round here. Giants. Okay. All right. There you go. Now, there was some compensatory picks. Now, this is kind of interesting. The Giants were awarded a second round compensatory pick, all right, awarded from the NFL for loss of the free agents. So basically what it is if you wind up losing, more free agents than you wind up signing, right, you get compensatory picks. So the Giants wind up a second round compensatory pick. And the Giants, I mean, they took Thomas Randolph. Once again, he played till 1999. It wasn't all with the Giants. He was a defensive back. I think he played 3 seasons with the Giants. He played 4 seasons with the Giants. Then in 1998, he plays with Cincinnati. In 1999, he played with Indianapolis. Then that was it. So in a second round pick, they took somebody who once again played 4 seasons for the Giants, and that was it. Yeah. Second round pick, you really kind of hope you can get a winner there. And, not that he was horrible, but they could have done better. All right, then this is where they actually did good for themselves. Okay, so this was probably their actual own pick here. Okay, yeah, second round, the 30th pick in the second round, they took Jason Sehorn. Right, so he wound up with was it 10 seasons? Yeah, 1994 to 2003. Although one of them, the seasons, he got hurt in preseason. I don't remember. It was against the Jets. I think it might have been. He was returning a kickoff and he hurt him, and he was out the whole season. So, but I mean, if you're going to bomb out in the first or second round, whatever, which is absolutely horrible. Okay, but they wind up rebounding. They got Jason Sehorn, which wind up being a very, very good pick for the New York Football Giants. The third round, the Giants wound up taking Gary Downs, a running back from North Carolina State. I mean, he played from 94 to 2000, but they were not all with the Giants. He played one season with the Giants. 1994, he was with the Giants. 1995, he was with the Broncos. 1996, he was with the Giants. 1997, 98, and in 2000, he was with the Falcons. So I guess after he left the Giants and he went to the Falcons, Dan Reeves was the coach of the Falcons. So I guess he went to, play with his old coach, I guess it was. So once again, not a very good pick. And it's a third round pick too. So fourth round, they took Chris Maumalanga, I believe that's how you pronounce it. A defensive tackle. He played 3 seasons from Kansas. I mean, I know let's see here. Okay, he played the 1 season with the Giants, 94. Then 95, he was with 95 and 96, he played with Arizona. And then he was out of football. So once again, not a very good pick. And it was a 4th rounder too, right? 5th round they took, which wound up being a good one, although once again he did not play very long with the Giants, was Chad Bradsky. He played 5 seasons with the Giants and 5 seasons with the Colts. He played from 94 to 2003. Actually, I mean, he did not too bad. He had back-to-back double-digit seasons. One season, double digits, was with the Giants, and 1 double-digit sack season was with the Colts. So in 1998, according to Pro Football Reference here, he had 11 sacks. 1999 with the Colts, he had 12 sacks. So he had 23 sacks in 2 seasons as like a right defensive end. Now, I mean, wound up being a pretty formidable combination because you figure we had the hammer in the middle, right? We had Chad Bradsky at one defensive end. You had Michael Strahan at the other defensive end. So we had a nice defensive front there toward the late, mid to late 90s. So, I mean, so Bradsky was a pretty good pick. Although, of course, once again, as we've seen time and time again, even the Giants, I mean, they did good with Sehorn, right? Got him, actually had a good ball player, actually kept the guy around, all right, for his whole career with the Giants. Well, it would have been nice if they did the same thing with Bradsky because he was a very, a very, very good player. Not a phenomenal player, but he was a very good player. But once again, Chad Bradsky only played 5 seasons with the Giants. So then the final pick the Giants had was in the 6th round, was Jason Winrow, a guard from Ohio State, and he never made it in the pros. So, I mean, the Giants did not, it was not a banner draft for the Giants. Okay, I mean, a lot of it, some of it was, as we say, as the Giants were kind of struggling to do well in the 90s. A lot of it was, some of these poor drafts. The cupboards started getting empty, and with poor drafts. And even when you do have a decent draft, the guy's only with you for 2 or 3 years or maybe 4, and then he's gone. And you got to replace him. I mean, so the Giants were not doing a very good job. And that falls strictly on the GM, with George Young. And, he was just, I don't know. I don't know. He had some very good picks early on from 1979 into the 80s and all that. Once he hit the 90s, boy, he just, as I said, he did good. Some of them. I mean, actually, if you look at it, like the first round pick from 1993, he took with his first round select. He took Dave Brown, the 1993 first round pick, which is bombed because you take a quarterback in the first round, he's supposed to be a starter. Dave Brown was not a starter; he was a backup. But in their second round pick, they took Michael Strahan. Okay. 1994, they took Thomas Lewis, the wide receiver, which bombed. But in their second round pick, they wound up taking Jason Sehorn, which wound up being a great pick. Then the same thing was with Cedric Jones. 1996, the Giants selected defensive end Cedric Jones from Oklahoma, which was pretty much a bomb. Okay, but in the second round, they took Amani Toomer, which was a home run or grand slam, actually. You know what I mean? So, but I mean, you're supposed to be hitting on your first and second round picks. But I mean, for the most part, from 91 to 96, I mean, George Young's first round selections were not very good at all. Really, really set the Giants back big time. So, but so that's those are the drafts. All right. Now I said, I mean, the Giants team as a whole here, they scored 279 points, they averaged 17.4 points per game. Very bad. Points against, they gave up 305. They only, 19 points a game they gave up. So they were actually, they were 8th in the NFL. There's only giving up 19 points per game, 19.1 points. Now, I mean, as I said, once again, it's the Albert Einstein theory of relativity. Everything's relative. Everything's like connected, okay? If you got a good offense, they're on the field marching up and down the field, scoring points for you. Why? What? Your defense is what? Yeah, they're on the sideline drinking Kool-Aid, right? How many points is your defense giving up on the sideline drinking Kool-Aid? None. I mean, of course, Dave Brown did contribute to that because he threw a bunch of pick sixes. So, I mean, there's at least 21 points that Dave Brown, I gave the defense. So the defense actually only gave up 284 points because Dave Brown with his pick sixes was responsible for 21 of those points. But anyway, but I mean, but the Giants with a very, very, very not very, very bad, but very just mediocre at best offense. Didn't have a great running game. Hampton's got over 1,000 yards once again. God bless him. But as I said, their passing attack was just not very good at all. Let's see here. So Dave Brown. I mean, Dave Brown actually had a winning record. He was 9-6. He completed 57.4% of his passes. He had 12 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Though not very good. Kent Graham started one game. He lost that one. He threw 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So the Giants as a team had 16 touchdown passes for the whole season and 18 interceptions. The defense wasn't bad. They only gave up 16 touchdown passes all season, and they had 16 interceptions. The Giants, their running game, Rodney Hampton had over 1,075 yards. But I mean, they only averaged 3.3 yards a carry. Very bad. Very, very bad. Rodney Hampton had 3.3 yards a carry. Dave Meggett had 298 yards rushing. He averaged 3.3 yards a carry. Dave Brown, he had 196 yards rushing. He averaged what? Yep, 3.3 yards a carry. So their top 3 runners all averaged 3.3 yards a carry. Kenyon Machard, a fullback, he averaged 2.6 yards a carry. Gary Downs, the Giants draft pick, he averaged 3.4 yards a carry. I mean, Keith Elias, he averaged 2 yards a carry. I mean, just, horrible. Absolutely horrible. The Giants had the Giants the year before had over 2,200 yards rushing. This year they had 1,700. So they went down like over 500 yards in rushing yards in a season. I mean, they only had 12 rushing touchdowns. Their longest run all season was 27 yards. Not going to get it done. The defense did good, only gave up 11 rushing touchdowns, right? But I mean, the thing that really did the Giants in, let's see here. Let's go to the opposing team. All right. 1, 2, fumble. Okay. Yeah. All right. The Martin Bayless. Well, Dave Brown threw 3 interceptions. He got picked off, run back for touchdowns, and the Giants had a fumble recovery, run back for a touchdown. But I mean, other than that, the defense was not bad at all. It was certainly not bad. It was very, very respectable. I mean, could you have won a Super Bowl with that defense? Going up against a high-powered offense? Well, quite possibly not, because the Cowboys whooped up on them. But but it was a very, certainly a decent, adequate defense. Although they did not get a lot of sacks. Well, what do they have? 26 sacks all season. They gave up 46. Michael Strahan had 4.5 sacks. So, good old Eric Howard was still there. All right. So they did not have much of a pass rush. So Michael Strahan, actually, he led the Giants in sacks. The Giant, his career leader in sacks with 141.5. But he actually, in his first 2 seasons, he only had 5.5 sacks. So he did a lot of damage, once he started, getting into the mid 90s and up until 2007. He had a lot of sacks then. So let's go over. Let's see what the Wikipedia has to say about the Giants season here. All right. Let's see. 1994 New York Giants was the franchise's 70th season in the National Football League and the second under coach Dan Reeves. The Giants failed to improve on their 11-5 record from 1993 and finished 9-7. They were second in the National Football Conference East Division, 3 games behind the Cowboys, who did not win the Super Bowl. They lost to the 49ers in the championship game, and the 49ers won the Super Bowl. And it was not much of a Super Bowl, let me tell you that much. In the 1994 NFL Draft, the Giants selected wide receiver Thomas Lewis in the first round with the 24th overall pick. New York began the season with a 3-game winning streak, defeating the Eagles, the Cardinals, and the Redskins. Giants' first loss came in their 4th game as the New Orleans Saints defeated them 27-22. The next 6 games were also losses. After the Cardinals beat them 10-9 in Week 11, New York's record was 3-7. They were 3-0, and they went to 3-7. Against the Houston Oilers, the Giants snapped their 7-game losing streak by winning 13-10. Once again, defense kept them in. The offense hardly scored any points. The team won its next 4 games, moving into postseason contention following its second win over the Eagles, which brought the Giants to 8-7. In the final game of the regular season, after the defending Super Bowl champion Cowboys, the Giants prevailed by 5 points. They needed a Green Bay loss as well to make the playoffs, but the Packers won their last game, ending the Giants' season. Rodney Hampton rushed for 1,075 yards and six touchdowns during the season. He was 7th in the NFL in rushing yards in 1994. The Giants' leading receiver statistically was Mike Sherrard, who caught 53 passes for 825 yards and 6 touchdowns. Dave Brown started 15 of 16 games at quarterback and threw 12 touchdown passes. I thought it said 13. Well, let me see here. Was it 12? I thought here it said 13. 12, my bad. Oh, that's right. Okay, they had 16 touchdown passes. Dave Mega threw a touchdown pass. Dave Brown had 12 touchdown passes. Kent Graham threw 3, and Dave Mega threw 1. So that's what gave him the 16. All right. Let's see. Defensively, Keith Hamilton and Eric Howard each had 6.5 sacks to lead the Giants, while John Booty and Philip Sparks, my bad, each had a team high 3 interceptions. So, the Giants, with Eric Howard, the Hammer, Hamilton, right? Michael Strahan, they had a nice defensive line. Very nice defensive line. Let's see here. The offseason. The Giants went through some roster changes after the 1993 season and in free agency. So this is where the Giants wound up getting a second-round compensatory pick because they lost a boatload of guys, big-time good guys in free agency, and they did not sign a majority of a lot of guys in free agency. Amongst them in free agency, the departures were Bart Oates, who went to the 49ers, and he wound up winning his 3rd Super Bowl. Good for you, Bart. Way to go, brother. So Bart Oates was signed by the San Francisco 49ers. Mark Collins, right, who was a second-round pick in the 1986 draft, signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. Myron Guyton, who joined the former coach Bill Parcells with the New England Patriots, and Perry Williams, who signed with the Jets. Sims started all 16 games in 1993, being one of only 7 quarterbacks to do so, starting all 16 games, and was named a member of the Pro Bowl for his performance, having led the Giants to 11-5 season that included a victory over Minnesota in the playoffs. However, Sims underwent shoulder surgery after the 1993 season to repair a torn labrum. The surgery was successful, and a team doctor, Russell F. Warren's prognosis for recovery was excellent. Sims was expected to be ready in time for training camp. However, later during that offseason, Sims was released by the Giants and subsequently decided to retire. So, I mean, the thing is that, if they had Phil Sims, quite possibly he's not throwing all those pick sixes. Quite possibly the Giants wind up making the playoffs. Quite possibly. But once again, that was something. I mean, Phil Sims in 1993, they led the Giants with 11-5 record. Okay. He had his highest completion percentage of his career in 1993. They were 11-5. They went to the playoffs. They won the first round. They won a wild card, and they went to the divisional round of the playoffs. He went to the Pro Bowl, right? He had surgery. He comes back after all that, and get out of here. We don't need you. We got this Dave Brown guy here. He'll lead us to the promised land. Oh man, what a way to go, George. Good job. I mean, I don't know. I guess they were just, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure if they were just trying to move on, because they if you want to go, they had Kent Graham and they had Dave Brown. So I guess they were trying to move forward with those guys, and maybe if they had to get somebody else as well, which they would get Danny Canal too. But I guess they were just trying to move on from Phil Sims. But I mean, he had a very good season for him in 1993. He went to the Pro Bowl, 11-5 record, all that stuff, playoffs. They won a playoff game, and then he should be ready to come back and get out of here. So maybe that cost the Giants a playoff berth. Who knows? So, I mean, so you can see where the Giants lost a bunch of good players in free agency. And that's why they got a good high compensatory pick in the second round. So let's go over the Giants games here. They won their first three. All right. Let's see here. What do we got? They beat the first game of the season, right? They had played the Eagles at home. They won 28-23. 1-0. The following week, they play in Arizona against the Cardinals, and they would win 20-17. The third week, the Redskins would come to town. The Giants would beat them 31-23. So now the Giants, hey, things were looking good, right? They were 11-5. Their record was the year before with Dan Reeves. They win the first three here. So after the first 19 regular season games with Dan Reeves, they're 14-5. I mean, whoo, here we go, baby. Super Bowl, right? Mama's wrong again. So here's where the losses start piling up. And the Giants had their bye week. Once again, they had an early bye week in week 4. So week 5, they come back, and in the Superdome, they played their fourth game of the season. The Saints would wind up winning 27-22. And of course, so the Giants would lose by, 5 points, but the Saints would pick a pass off, run it back for a touchdown, giving them 7 points. And obviously it is what it is. But if you take that pick 6 away, or shall we say the pick 7, the Giants win 22-20. That would give the Giants 10 wins, put them in the playoffs. But the following week, the Giants lost at home to Minnesota 27-10. I believe there was a pick 6 in this one too. I know they had back-to-back pick 6s here, right? Yep. Anthony Parker picked off a pass and ran it back 44 yards for a touchdown. But, I mean, the Giants lost by 17 points. So that was not basically the difference in the game. The following week, the Giants would lose. The Pittsburgh Steelers would come to town, and the Giants, just with their pathetic offense, scored 6 points. They lost 10-6. Defense kept them in. I'm sorry, I missed a game here. The 7th game, the Giants went out and played the Rams. All right. In Los Angeles, and the Rams would win 17-10. So now the Giants are 3-3. So I do apologize. So now the next week, the Pittsburgh Steelers came to town, which would be week 8, but it was the 7th game of the season for the Giants. The defense kept them in, only gave up 10 points, but the offense only scored 6. The Giants had 8 first downs the whole game. You're not going to win many games with 8 first downs and 6 points. So now the Giants started off 3-0, are now 3-4. The following week, the Giants would lose at home. They would lose to the Detroit Lions in overtime, 28-25, which now the Giants are 3-5. So I believe this is the other pick six game. Yep. Mike Johnson picked off a pass, ran it back 48 yards for a touchdown. Jason Hanson with the extra point, put Detroit up 18-10 at the time. So once again, the Giants lost in overtime. It was tied 25-25, right? So if you take the pick six away, the Giants win 25-18. Give the Giants another win. Giants make the playoffs. As I said, with Phil Simms, if they actually kept Phil Simms, would Phil Simms have thrown all these pick sixes? Probably not. All right, so after the Giants lost to the Lions in overtime, 28-25, now the Giants are 3-5. The following week, the Giants were playing in Dallas. The Cowboys were very good. This would be the third straight season the Cowboys would go to the championship game. The Cowboys would win 38-10. The Giants had 188 yards of total offense, 11 first downs. Just was not getting it done. The Giants got pretty much embarrassed that game. Really was an embarrassment. The following week, Arizona would come to town. Once again, the defense would keep them in the game. The Giants scored 9 points, but they gave up 10. The Giants actually were winning. I think Arizona scored a touchdown in the last quarter here. Was that what it was? Yeah, I mean, this one was the Giants were up 9-0. The third quarter, the Cardinals kicked the field goal to make it 9-3. Then in the fourth quarter, Brian Reeves had a 9-yard touchdown reception from Steve Berline, and so the Cardinals would score a touchdown, and it would wind up winning 10-9. So that loss there at home, really hurt the Giants' chances as well. So now the Giants are now, all right, after they started off 3-0, now they're 3-7. The chances for making the playoffs are pretty not good. Not good at all. But they gave it a fighting chance, right? The following week, the Giants would play Houston Oilers in the Astrodome, and they would win 13-10. Once again, the defense kept them in the game. The offense this time barely scored enough points to win, but 13-10. The following week, the Giants would stay on the road. They would play the Washington Redskins, and they would win 21-19. So now the Giants are 5-7. The following week, the Giants would play Cleveland Browns on the road. All right. The Giants would win once again. The defense kept them in the game. The defense gave up 13 points. The offense scored 16. The offense was not very good at all. So the Giants wound up winning 16-13 in Cleveland. So now the Giants are 6-7. The Giants the following week would wind up evening out their record at 7-7. They would beat the Cincinnati Bengals 27-20. And I believe that was the first time that the Giants ever beat the Bengals. I believe it was in 1994. So after the Giants won 27-20, the Giants' record is 7-7. Right, so they tied it up. So now now they have a chance, right? They still have a chance, and you got to give them a lot of credit after losing those 7 games in a row. For them to come back and be 7-7 once again, you got to give them a lot of credit. Well, the following week, the Giants would play in Philadelphia, and the Giants would once again, the defense kept them in the game, giving up only 13 points, but the offense scored 16 points. Once again, the offense barely scored any points, but they scored just enough to win. They won 16-13, putting them at 8-7. Final game of the season, the Giants played the Dallas Cowboys at home. Now, I remember listening to this game on the radio. The Giants were winning 15-10. As I read from Wikipedia, the Giants had to win, and they had a hope that the Packers would lose, but that didn't happen. The Packers wound up winning. But the Giants had the ball. They were up 15-10. They had the ball, I'm going to say, somewhere around their own like 20 or 30 yard line or so, whatever. But what really was very impressive about this game was the Giants. They were able to run the clock out. There was like 6-7 minutes left to go. I think you can check this out on YouTube. I think they have like the final drive of the game. I think if you check it out on YouTube. The Giants had as I said, they got the ball with like 6 minutes or so, 7 minutes to go in the game, and against a very, very, very good Dallas defense. Let's see, what did Dallas? I was trying to see here. Yeah, Dallas only gave up 15.5 points a game. They were third in the whole NFL. They only gave up 15.5 points a game. So they were a very good defense. But the Giants got the ball, and they kept running it. They would run it and run it. Let me see here. How many times did they run the ball here? Let's see here. The Giants defense did really good against, once again, a very good Dallas Cowboy offense. The Cowboys in this game got 11 first downs. They ran the ball 24 times for 90 yards. They had 112 yards passing. They sacked Troy Aikman 3 times. They lost 19 yards. The Cowboys had 183 total yards of offense. I mean, the defense did a phenomenal job. Well, anyway, the Giants ran the ball 37 times in this game for 127 yards. So, but the thing was very, very most important, or very, very impressive to me was when they got down to the end of the game, right? They were able to run the clock out. They were able to run the last 6 or 7 minutes off by just running the ball. They ran the ball, and they just chewed up the clock. And they got all the way down, I'm going to say like somewhere around the 10-yard line of the Cowboys. So the Giants could have scored another field goal, whatever, but the object was to win the game. But they were just able to run the clock out. I'll never forget that drive. It was very, very impressive, against a Cowboy team that went to the championship game. So, and the defending Super Bowl champion Cowboys. It was at home. The crowd was going crazy and all of that, which actually kept the Giants in the playoffs and whatnot. So the Giants would win that final game, right, by a score of 15-10, put them at 9-7. But let's see here. But let's see. We had the 4 teams that were tied. We had the Green Bay Packers, Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears, and New York Giants were all tied at 9-7. However, only 3 of those 4 teams will make the wild card. Unfortunately, the Giants were the 4th team. They did not wind up winning. Green Bay was first in the wild card based on best head-to-head record, 3-1. Detroit was 2-2, and Chicago was 1-3. And they had a better conference record. Their conference record was 8-4. The Giants' conference record was 6-6. Right. So let's not forget, the couple games the Giants lost with those pick sixes that cost the Giants quite possibly a chance to go to the playoffs. But so that's why the pack. Detroit was second in the NFC wild card based on a better division record, right? Than Chicago. The Detroit was 4-4 in their division. Chicago was 3-5, and they had a better head-to-head record victory over the Giants, 1-0. Remember the Lions beat the Giants in overtime in Jersey. So that's why Detroit had the head-to-head over the Giants. Chicago was the 3rd team, wild card based team, on a better record against common opponents. They were 4-4 against common opponents. The Giants were 3-5 against the common opponents. So that's what kept the Giants out of the playoffs for 1994. So is what it is. But so let's go over here the AFC, right? The Miami Dolphins won the AFC East with a record of 10-6. New England was 10-6 too. However, they get the wild card. In the AFC Central, the Pittsburgh Steelers won with a record of 12-4. Cleveland Browns were in second place with a record of 11-5. A very, very impressive wild card record. In the AFC West, San Diego won with a record of 11-5, and the Kansas City Chiefs were 9-7. They got the 3rd wild card. So in the playoffs in the AFC at Joe Robbie Stadium, Miami would beat the Chiefs 27-17. And in Cleveland, the Browns would beat the Patriots 20-13, sending Cleveland and Miami to the divisional round. So in the divisional round, in San Diego, Jack Murphy Stadium, the Chargers would win 22-21 over the Dolphins, and Pittsburgh would beat the Browns 29-9, setting up a championship game between Pittsburgh and San Diego. And it was a very good, very exciting championship game. I remember this one. San Diego in Pittsburgh and Three Rivers Stadium would wind up winning 17-13, sending the Chargers to the Super Bowl. Was not much of a Super Bowl, I can tell you that. So in the NFC, the Cowboys, the defending two-time Super Bowl champions, won the NFC East with a record of 12-4. NFC Central, they sent 4 teams to the playoffs. Minnesota won with a record of 10-6. The Packers, the Lions, and the Bears all finished 9-7. All 3 of those teams were the wild cards. And then the NFC West, the eventual Super Bowl champion, San Francisco 49ers, finished with a record of 13-3. They had the best record in the whole NFL. They were a very good team that year. So in the wild card, right, at Lambeau Field, the Packers won. They beat the Lions 16-12. At Hubert Humphrey Stadium, Metrodome in Minnesota, the Bears would beat Minnesota 35-18. So now in the divisional round in Dallas, Dallas beat Green Bay 35-9. And then in San Francisco, the 49ers beat Candlestick Park. 49ers beat the Bears 44-15, setting up the championship game, right, between the 49ers and the Cowboys. Now, the 49ers, I think, jumped out to like a 21-0 early, like first quarter lead, and they wound up holding on. They wound up winning 38-28, but the Cowboys fought back. The Cowboys really gave them a run for the money. But if you listen to, especially like the Cowboys and the 49ers and all, especially listen to those guys talking about that season, the 1994 season, that they pretty much expected for that to be the championship game. It was pretty much just those 2 teams, and they were right, to be honest with you. I mean, in the two playoff games, the Cowboys, to get to the championship game, beat the Packers 35-9, and the 49ers beat the Bears 44-15. So I mean, they were certainly the cream of the crop in the NFC, without question. And it was just a matter of time before they faced each other once again in the championship game here. But this time, the other 2 years, okay, in 1992, 1993, the 49ers and the Cowboys faced each other in a championship game, but the Cowboys would prevail. So this was the 3rd year in a row they faced each other in a championship game, but this time the 49ers would win 38-28, sending the 49ers to the Super Bowl against the San Diego Chargers. And it was not much of a Super Bowl. It was this was Steve Young's Super Bowl here. He had a great Super Bowl. I mean, I was went up 49-26, and what was it? So actually, one time it was 42-10 with 3 minutes to go, and actually, Jerry Rice had a 15-yard touchdown reception from Steve Young to put the 49ers up 42-10. Right. Well, on the ensuing kickoff, Andre Coleman returned it back 98 yards for a touchdown to give the Chargers a touchdown to make it 42-18. They got the 2-point conversion, so that was 42-18, but it didn't much matter because then the 49ers got the ball back and Jerry Rice scored another touchdown pass from Steve Young to make it 49-18. And there were 2 minutes to go, 2.5 minutes to go in the game. The Chargers scored another touchdown to make it 49-26, but it was at one time it was actually 42-10 with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. So it was not much of a game. It was, it was pretty much a blowout the whole way. I mean, pretty much the cream of the crop in the NFL that season, without question, was the Cowboys and the 49ers, and it was just pretty much you didn't know who was going to wind up going to the Super Bowl, and it was not a formality, by any question. But I mean, you just knew that those 2 teams were just the cream of the crop. And I said in that championship game, the 49ers jumped out to a nice lead. The Cowboys did not give up. They kept fighting back. But in the end, the 49ers wound up winning. And of course, then they wound up winning the Super Bowl. So, but that pretty much wraps up the 1994 season. That which one? I mean, as I said, it's just going to start going downhill. I mean, Dan Reeves, 1993, they had 11-5 record. The Giants went to the playoffs, won a playoff game, lost in the divisional round, but then that was his only playoff appearance. So 94, they had a winning record, no playoff appearance, but 95 and 96 were just were not very good. So that wraps up the 1994 season, which was the 70th season for the New York Football Giants. I'll be back again tomorrow night with the 1995 season for the New York Giants, which just happened to be the 71st season in the history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.